Oh,
Doing good. You from the Shy? We from the same city, so
look, so hey, Kojo, you collect a lot of Chicago people, huh?
I'm
Because they
actually the
arts,
only
they're
one.
straight shooters. That's why.
Well,
Hey, well,
you know how
obviously you said
Chicago is.
I'm from Chicago, but you said I don't shoot straight. I either answer the
Yeah,
question or I
bro.
don't.
You got to sort that out, bro. That's nothing to do with me. Maria, sort him out. He's one of your peoples.
So
No,
AJ,
if you listen, there's an answer in there. But
as a fellow Chicagoan, I know you can handle the heat.
sure.
So I'ma just shoot. Um, were you ever really interested in Alexis in a way that you really felt like you could go the distance with her? And the reason I ask that is because you have given me a little bit of F boy vibes. And the reason why is because in that first date that you had with her, you made it very clear to the cameras, in your confessionals that you weren't really feeling her. She was a bit aggressive. And even just on screen chemistry, it just seemed like you wasn't feeling her, at least not with the same level of passion that you were feeling Kyra. So I feel like we all knew like Kyra was your main choice. That's who you wanted to leave the experiment with. But however, it just seemed like you were stringing Alexis along, knowing good and well you did not really want her. So were you ever really taking her seriously to the point where you thought like you could really go the distance with her?
Yeah, I took it seriously. I wouldn't have kissed her on camera if that was the case. The answer to your question short, I wouldn't have kissed her on camera if I didn't look at it where it could be a possibility where we could end together. Because that's exactly what it is that I told her. It was the fact that I felt like when I was having conversation with her, she would have a level of understanding, or she would at least could say to me she had a level of understanding, and then I would end back up in the same conversation. I don't like having to, and it felt like that was going to be something that was always going to be. I didn't see an end to that. And that's never a space of, you eventually get to a space of where you start to question yourself and can possibly be, insecure and like knowing what it is that you're doing and who you are. If you feel like you're doing something and the person that you're doing it for always has to be reassured and questioned whether or not you're doing it from a good space, or are you doing it, or, whatever.
So you're saying that the breakdown in you and Alexis's relationship was the fact that she kept feeling the need to be reassured? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, you could sum it up like that.
So why did she feel the need to be reassured? Because on the season, it sounded like you guys had some rifts in communication. Like it seemed like
Not me and her, no, not really. I just so conversation usually always went smooth with me and her because I listened to her. I let her go ahead and get out everything that she needed to get out. Then I would respond, and then it would kind of go away. But then it'd come back, like, So obviously it would be something that wasn't necessarily resolved. But then if that's the case, the question that you asked me, or the understanding that she had wasn't, what I'm saying, we never came to an understanding. I don't like feeling like I'm going in like that circle like that. You'll never get out of that. Because everybody has a cycle. There's a good app called The Pattern, right? You know what I'm saying? Like,
I guess what I'm referring to specifically was the conversation at the ranch that she had with you, where she was like, yo, like, I feel like you don't be responding to my text messages, or something that she said, or like, she just felt like the communication was off and like not really being consistent, you know?
so nah, that that just is kind of like an unfair expectation of availability right there. Because if we got the schedule that we had doing that, all of those dates that you see, her kicking Ron off, me having the date with Kyra, us having the gentleman's lounge, basically what we're being told about, going to the ranch, like all of that happened like in the same day, and like packing had to take place too. So if you did all of that all day, and then you had any type of work stuff that you needed to do and pack, Like what I told her was, if you remember, is that I saw her text late, and I didn't want to text her because I knew we had to be there at that ranch, like ridiculously early, and it took 2 hours to get there, like 2.5 hours to get there from Houston. Um, so why would I'm going to call somebody extra late? I'm gonna see you in the morning.
Okay. So this is my last question, and I'm sorry. This is my last question. So you're saying that the breakdown in you guys' relationship was the fact that she constantly needs to be reassured. At what point did you realize that that was a problem for you?
That's always a problem for me. But I'll always go ahead. I get that I talk in a way that everybody doesn't understand. I understand that fully. I'm not. That's not remiss on me at all. But it's because I don't like surface level conversation. I need to get to the crux of it, right? The same way you keep asking me these questions and I'm feeling like I'm answering them, but you're still digging because whatever the answer it is that you're looking for, I haven't said yet. But it would be better for me if you just ask the real question that you want to know and then approach it from that angle.
Okay. I mean, the last question that I just asked you answered, you said that it was always a problem for you, that she was always needing this reassurance, right? So what I'm really trying to get at, AJ, is the fact that I feel as though you knew that that Alexis was not really a good fit for you. You weren't into her like that, and I felt as though you strung her along all the way to the end, and then you broke her heart. And then after the fact that you broke her heart, like basically eliminating her off the show, when she DM'd you, you continued to lead her on and play with her emotions because you knew that like she was into you and stuff, and then you kept feeding into that, and then at the reunion you then say, when Uncle Tommy asked like, so who would you leave here, who are you interested in or whatever, you're like, not Alexis. That hurt me, and I'm like, whoa, like it's not even me, like I just felt like, if you knew that you're not interested in Alexis, why go through all of those motions, all of that effort to lead her on when you're not really that interested?
So you gave me a lot of intention, right? You looked and you observed, right?
Hmm.
So you didn't speak from what an objective space and what you actually saw in the factual manner of what it is that you saw. You just gave me a lot of intention. You gave me a lot of motive. You gave me a lot of other stuff about what it is that I must have felt based on how the situation ended. But that is not, none of that is true for me, right? Because if I'm going the same way, I'm doing this for a reason, right? Because I think a lot of times, and even in this conversation, what you've done every single time that you've asked me another question is you streamlined and kind of taken things that I haven't said and made it be like, oh, well, this is what it is that you mean by what it is you're saying. You're summarizing. And instead of me fighting it, I'm agreeing with you. But I've never said any of that. But now I have to kind of redirect you to go ahead and say like, hey, look, yes, whenever you're dating, nobody's a perfect fit from day one or day two or day 5 or 6 months or 7 months. People date for years and they don't get to that next space of marriage or kids or whatever because it's something missing. Men may not necessarily tell you, but if it's a man living with you, if it's a man dating you, y'all being sexual or whatever, but he's not making you his girlfriend, he's not making you his wife, you're doing something that he doesn't like. It's something missing. I don't care what he's telling you. No, it's not you, it's me and all of that. No, you are not doing something. You're not filling the space. You're not filling the gap that's important for that man, because if you were, you would be in the space that you needed to be. Now, if a person can do that for years, you can't expect me to be able to do it in weeks. So if I find a person attractive, and men are basing how they approach women first from just an attraction space, then you have to be able to say, all right, it's going to be a bunch of stuff that I come into it knowing there's going to be a bunch of stuff that I'm not necessarily going to like about you. Is that a deal breaker for me? And you don't know if those things are going to be a deal breaker for you until you experience them to a point where you say, you know what? No, that's not going to be something I'm able to deal with. because I had a conversation about it. I voiced my opinion about it. Oh, I don't necessarily like that. You should try something else. And they don't do that, and they continue to go down that path, and they not understanding you, and you feel like you had that conversation. How many times you have a conversation about something you don't like? 2, 3, 4? After that, you say, oh, you know what? Not for me.